Yo, before you scroll past this, I need you to think back to a time when your phone had a antenna, your ringtone was the song, and R&B wasn't a genre. It was the soundtrack to your entire life. Every heartbreak, every first date, every Friday night riding around with the windows down and the bass rattling the trunk. This is not just a playlist, this is a time machine. Today, we're pulling up 11 records that defined an era. The era where R&B was at its absolute peak. We're talking Amerie, Mia, Jaheim, Mario, Lloyd, Keri Hilson, Cassie, Day 26, Cherish, and Pretty Ricky. If you know even half these songs word for word, you already know this video is about to hit different. So grab your headphones, sit back, and let the Hive take you there. By the time we're done, you're either going to be texting your ex or texting your day one for making it through this decade with you. Let's get into it. Welcome back to R&B Hives. If you're new here, hit subscribe, because we live for exactly this. The deep cuts, the throwbacks, the songs that raised us. Let's go. Number 10, Pretty Ricky, On the Hotline.
About you and me, let's talk about
And to close out this journey through the 2000s, we had to bring the energy with Pretty Ricky's On the Hotline.
And now I'm on the hotline.
Released in 2005, this record captured a very specific moment in time, back when phone calls, not texts, were the primary way you kept the flame alive with somebody. Pretty Ricky built their whole identity around unapologetic, high-energy, confident R&B, and On the Hotline is one of the clearest examples of that formula working exactly as intended.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about...
The group's dynamic, trading vocal lines, layering harmonies over a bouncy, club-ready beat, gave the record this irresistible energy that made it a staple at parties throughout the mid-2000s. It wasn't subtle, and it wasn't trying to be. It was direct, playful, and built for maximum replay value. Pretty Ricky was part of a wave of groups that leaned fully into that hyper-confident, flirtatious energy that defined a specific lane of 2000s R&B. Different from the more mature, romantic ballads, but just as essential to the sound of the era. On the Hotline remains one of their most recognizable records. Number 9, Cherish, Do It To It. Cherish's Do It To It dropped in 2006, and this record is pure, undiluted party energy. Cherish, the group of sisters who brought a fresh, youthful, high-energy presence to the R&B scene, delivered one of the most infectious club records of the mid-2000s with this one.
Might clap my hand, don't get it twisted.
What made Do It To It stand out was its simplicity and its groove. It wasn't trying to be a deep, emotional ballad. It was built for one purpose: to get everybody on the dance floor moving in sync. The call and response structure, the chant-like hook, the driving rhythm, everything about this record was engineered for maximum crowd participation. Cherish brought something different to the R&B landscape at the time. A girl group dynamic with real chemistry, harmonizing in a way that felt organic rather than manufactured. And Do It To It became their signature moment, a record that still gets people moving at throwback parties and cookouts to this day. There's something special about records like this. They're not trying to be complicated. They know exactly what job they're supposed to do, and they do it perfectly. If you were doing this exact dance in your living room, in a school gym, at a family function, you already know. This one's a certified classic. Number 8. Day 26. Since You've Been Gone.
This is my song for real, no doubt.
This next one comes from a group that was built directly out of reality TV. And honestly, that origin story makes this record even more impressive. Day 26 was assembled through Diddy's televised talent competition, and skeptics at the time weren't sure a reality show-formed group could produce anything with real staying power. Since You've Been Gone, released in 2008, proved those doubters wrong. This is a gut punch of a breakup anthem, the kind of record that captures that specific, aching moment when someone's absence hits you harder than you expected it to. What made Day 26 work as a group was the way their voices blended. Instead of one clear frontman carrying the entire record, they traded lines and harmonized in a way that gave the song real emotional depth. It had that classic R&B group dynamic, reminiscent of the vocal groups from the 90s, but updated with 2000s production sensibilities. Since You've Been Gone became one of the group's signature records, and it's a perfect example of how, even in an era dominated by solo superstars, R&B groups could still carve out space for records with real emotional weight and vocal complexity. It's the kind of song you play when you need to sit in a feeling for a minute, when you're not ready to move on yet, and you just need the music to understand that. If you've ever played this one on repeat during a breakup, you already know exactly what we're talking about. Let's keep going. Number 7. Cassie, Me and You.
I've had you waiting that long.
Now this record is a masterclass in minimalism.
Your calls, I know that I shouldn't have had you.
Cassie's Me and You dropped in 2006, and it sounded like nothing else on the radio at the time. While most R&B records of that era leaned into lush, layered production, Me and You stripped everything down. Sparse, synth-driven, almost robotic in its restraint. And that's exactly what made it revolutionary. Cassie's vocal delivery on this track is understated, almost whispery, and that choice was intentional. Instead of belting out big emotional runs, she let the production and the groove do the heavy lifting, and her cool, detached delivery gave the song this hypnotic, late-night club quality that felt completely ahead of its time. Looking back now, Me and You was massively influential. That minimalist, synth-forward approach to R&B production ended up shaping a whole generation of artists who came after her, especially as the genre started blending more with electronic and alternative influences in the 2010s. At the time, some people didn't fully appreciate how forward-thinking this record was. But in hindsight, it's clear Cassie was doing something genuinely different. It's a short record, it's a simple record, but it's an unforgettable one. The kind of song where the second that opening synth line hits, you already know exactly what's coming, and you're already nodding your head before the first verse even starts. Let's keep it moving. If you are enjoying this, do well to like, share, and subscribe to keep connected. Number 6. Keri Hilson, Knock You Down. This next one is a certified banger, and it's got one of the most star-studded lineups on this entire list. Keri Hilson's Knock You Down came out in 2009, featuring Kanye West and Neo. And if you think about it, that's an absolutely stacked roster. Keri had already made a name for herself as a songwriter behind the scenes, penning records for some of the biggest names in the industry before stepping fully into the spotlight as an artist herself. And Knock You Down was proof that she more than belonged there. The concept of the song, being emotionally overwhelmed, knocked down by someone you can't stop thinking about, is a universal feeling, and the production gave it this widescreen, almost triumphant energy despite the vulnerable subject matter. Neo's hook is instantly recognizable, and Kanye's verse added a level of star power that helped push the record even further into the mainstream. What's interesting about this era of R&B is how collaborative it became. You'd have a singer, a rapper, and a featured vocalist, all on one track, each bringing their own lane to the record, without it feeling overcrowded. Knock You Down is a perfect example of that balance done right. Keri Hilson's run in the late 2000s doesn't always get talked about enough. But between her writing credits and her own hits, she was one of the most influential figures shaping the sound of that period, even when her name wasn't the one people were shouting the loudest. Let's keep the momentum going. Number 5, Lloyd feat. Lil Wayne, You. Coming off that emotional high, we're switching the energy up with one of the smoothest records of the late 2000s.
In the hills, you call it what you want, but she gon' call it what she feel.
Lloyd's You, featuring Lil Wayne, dropped in 2007, and it perfectly captured that sweet spot between R&B and hip-hop that defined so much of the genre during this era. Lloyd had this effortlessly smooth, almost falsetto-tinged delivery that made him stand out from a lot of his peers. And pairing him with Lil Wayne, who at that point was on an absolutely unstoppable run, was a masterstroke. This was the era where the R&B rap collaboration wasn't just common, it was essential. Labels understood that pairing a smooth R&B voice with a charismatic rapper created records that could dominate both radio formats simultaneously. And You is one of the best examples of that formula, executed perfectly. Lloyd handles the emotional, romantic core of the record, while Wayne's verse adds swagger and edge without ever overpowering the song's tone. There's a reason this record still gets played at every throwback night, every 2000s themed party, every road trip playlist. It's smooth, it's confident, it's got just enough bounce to keep the energy up without losing that romantic undertone. Lloyd, much like a few other artists on this list, is criminally underrated when people talk about the greats of this era. His catalog is deep, his voice is versatile, and You remains one of the signature records of his career. All right, Hive, we're almost at the halfway mark. If you're still here, drop a pair in the comments so we know the real ones made it this far. Let's keep going. Number 4, Amerie, Let Me Love You.
Listen, baby, I just don't get it.
Now this one needs no introduction, but we're gonna give it one anyway, because the story behind this record is bigger than most people realize.
Your true beauty's description looks so good that it...
Mario's Let Me Love You dropped in 2004 and became an absolute juggernaut. A song so massive it dominated radio, dominated the charts, and became one of the definitive R&B ballads of the entire decade. This wasn't just a hit, this was a cultural moment. What made this record so powerful was the vulnerability in it. Amerie was still a teenager at the time, but he delivered this song with a maturity and emotional weight that made it feel like it came from someone twice his age. The production, courtesy of a team that understood exactly how to build a ballad with cinematic scope, gave the song this soaring, almost orchestral quality. It didn't just play in the background, it filled the room.
You the way love's supposed to be.
Let Me Love You is one of those rare records that crossed every demographic line. It wasn't just an R&B hit. It became a pop culture staple, played at proms, weddings, graduations, first dances. If you were coming of age in the mid-2000s, this song was probably playing during one of the most pivotal emotional moments of your teenage life.
You do it love's supposed to be.
And here's the thing, songs like this don't happen by accident. It takes a perfect alignment of vocal performance, songwriting, and production to create something that transcends its moment and becomes a permanent fixture in the culture. Amerie achieved that with this record, and 2 decades later, it still stops a room the second it comes on.
Love you, love you, love.
If this one just gave you chills, you already know why we had to include it. Let's keep the hive buzzing. Number 3, Jaheim, Put That Woman First. All right, deep breath, because this next one hits a completely different part of the soul. Jaheim's Put That Woman First dropped in 2007, and honestly, this record is one of the most slept-on love anthems of the entire decade. While a lot of R&B in the mid to late 2000s was leaning more upbeat, more club-influenced, Jaheim stayed rooted in that raspy, soulful, old-school delivery that made him feel like a direct bridge between classic soul singers and modern R&B. This song isn't about seduction. It's not about the chase. It's about maturity, about a man essentially giving other men game on how to treat a woman right. Communicate, listen, prioritize her. It's a message record wrapped in a smooth, mid-tempo groove, and that combination is exactly why it resonated so deeply with listeners who were tired of hearing the same surface-level love songs on repeat. Jaheim's voice has always had this texture to it, a little gravel, a little grit, but still incredibly tender when the moment calls for it. That's a hard balance to strike, and it's part of what made him one of the most respected male vocalists of his generation, even if he doesn't always get mentioned in the same breath as some of his more mainstream crossover peers. What's beautiful about Put That Woman First is that it still holds up today. Go to any grown and sexy playlist, any date night mix, any wedding reception slow dance set. This record is still in rotation, still hitting the same way it did back then. If you've got someone you'd play this one for right now, let them know. And if you're riding solo tonight, don't worry, we've got you. Let's keep moving through the hive. Number 2, Mia, My Love Is Like, Whoa. Okay, now we're shifting into something a little different, but just as unforgettable. Mia's My Love Is Like, Whoa came out in 2003, and it had this bounce, this playful confidence that made it stand out from a lot of the more dramatic ballads dominating the charts at the time. It wasn't begging, it wasn't pleading, it was Mia telling you, with total certainty, exactly what she brought to the table, and daring you to keep up. Mia had already built a name for herself years before this record dropped, coming up in the late 90s, alongside a wave of R&B women who were reshaping what female artists in the genre could sound like. Sultry but strong, sweet but self-assured. But My Love Is Like, Whoa felt like a reintroduction, a statement. It had this rhythmic, almost conversational cadence in the verses that made it incredibly catchy without ever feeling forced. What's interesting about this record is the production. It had a swing to it, almost a rock-tinged undertone mixed with classic R&B vocal styling. That fusion was very much a product of its time, when producers were experimenting with blending genres to make records that could dominate radio and the clubs simultaneously. And let's be honest, this is one of those songs where, if it comes on at a cookout or a throwback night, everybody knows the hook. Doesn't matter your age. Doesn't matter if you were even alive in 2003. That hook has been passed down like folklore. Mia's catalog as a whole doesn't always get the recognition it deserves in these 2000s retrospectives. But records like this one are exactly why she remains one of the most respected voices to come out of that era. If this one just took you back, let us know in the comments. And stick around. Number 1. Amerie. One Thing.
It's this one thing. Got me tripping.
One Thing by Amerie is one of those records that, the second that breakbeat kicks in, it doesn't matter where you are. The car, the kitchen, a wedding reception at 11 p.m. Your body reacts before your brain even catches up. That drum break is one of the most sampled, most iconic rhythms of the entire 2000s. And it's all thanks to legendary producer Rich Harrison, the same mind behind some of the biggest R&B and hip-hop records of that era. What made Amerie different from a lot of her peers is that she never fully fit into one box. She had this rock meets soul, almost punk-adjacent energy in her delivery. Aggressive, urgent, unapologetic. One Thing wasn't a slow-burn seduction record. It was a full-throttle sprint. And that's exactly why it became one of the defining singles of 2005, climbing the charts and becoming an instant staple at every party, every club, every cookout. Here's something a lot of casual fans don't know. That drum break wasn't some obscure sample. Rich Harrison flipped a classic funk break in a way that felt completely new, completely urgent, completely 2005. It's the kind of production choice that separates a good record from a legendary one. And honestly, Amerie doesn't get enough credit in these throwback conversations. She was doing vocal runs, rhythmic phrasing, and genre blending that influenced a whole generation of artists who came after her. If you grew up in this era, One Thing wasn't just a song. It was a mood, a reflex, a Pavlovian response the second those drums hit. If you were doing the two-step to this one in 2005, drop a comment right now and let us know. If you rode with us through this entire video, drop a comment and tell us which song hit the hardest for you. Was it Mario making you tear up? Cassie making you nod your head? Cherish making you get up and actually do the dance? Let us know. And if this is your first time in the Hive, welcome home. This is exactly what we do here. We dig up the records that raised us, the songs that soundtracked our lives, and we celebrate them the way they deserve. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because we've got so much more of this coming. Drop a like if this took you back, and as always, stay in the Hive. We'll see you next time.